She was 32 years old when she was appointed the youngest ever chair of the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, by President Biden in the summer of 2021. But Columbia law professor and antitrust crusader Lina Khan didn't hold back once she was appointed. Over the past 3.5 years, she's taken on the likes of Google, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft and helped bolster the Biden administration's populist credentials with new rules on everything from getting rid of junk fees to making it easier to cancel your subscriptions. She's won praise even from some big-name Republicans in Congress in the process, but she's also made a lot of enemies in boardrooms across corporate America. And Donald Trump is now planning on replacing her as FTC chair. Surprise! So what does she make of what's coming down the line, and how does she define her own legacy? Joining me now for an exclusive interview with Mehdi Unfiltered is the outgoing FTC chair, Lina Khan. Lina, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Under your leadership, Lina, the Federal Trade Commission has gotten rid of junk fees, made it easier to cancel subscriptions, worked to lower drug prices, struck down a recent merger that would have raised the price of groceries. I mean, the list goes on and on. You've done a lot in a short space of time, but I just wonder, how do you see your accomplishments impacting on the everyday lives of ordinary Americans? What do you think the highlight has been? What would you like your legacy at the FTC to be?
At its core, the FTC's job is to promote fair, honest, and competitive markets. We've done that job faithfully and vigorously. We've won big victories in court, and we have materially made life better for the American people, from bringing down the cost of asthma inhalers and other drugs, to taking on junk fees by major corporate landlords, to blocking a major grocery merger that would have led to higher prices and worse jobs, to making it much easier to cancel a subscription. And I think if you step back, the FTC has really demonstrated to the American people what it looks like when a government agency is fully serving the people and fully in their corner, even when it means taking on powerful vested interests and law-breaking corporations.
As someone who's just founded a subscription business, I'm sad about the subscription rule. No, I'm kidding. I know you've held open commission meetings. You've traveled across the country to hear from Americans directly from all walks of life. What are you hearing from them? What do you think the issues that matter to everyday Americans are that the FTC deals with? Because we're often told that the average American is actually small c conservative on issues related to the economy. They're very free market. They're very low tax. Is that what you hear?
So you're absolutely right that I made it a priority to make sure we were opening our doors and hearing from Americans all across the country. It's very easy in these types of jobs to become very insulated and just hear from, very small number of constituencies. I traveled to places like, Baraboo, Wisconsin, to Ames, Iowa, to Silicon Valley. I mean, really just all across. And what I heard was a real concern about lack of fairness in the marketplace. I think all too often people feel like they're not getting a fair shake just in their day-to-day economic transactions. And a lot of the work that the FTC has done has been about making sure that we are taking on some of those daily indignities, be it the junk fees, be it the higher prices and worse jobs because of extreme consolidation. You're absolutely right that questions of monopoly power and extreme concentration of economic power is not a partisan issue. I mean, I think there's deep concerns on both sides of the aisle. And I would get handwritten letters from people who would say things like, I'm a lifelong Republican, but the FTC's work to eliminate non-compete clauses is by far the best thing that the government has ever done in my lifetime. So I think the work that the agency has been doing has enormous public support, and we've seen that in countless ways.
I'm guessing you were better received in Ames, Iowa than in Silicon Valley. What is it about antitrust that you think big corporations, tech corporations, for example, the CEOs of those corporations who don't tend to be fans of yours, what is it that they don't get in your view? How does going to court, for example, to stop grocery chain Kroger's from acquiring rival Albertsons, which you successfully did in court just last month, how does that help consumers and help workers in your view?
So the premise underlying our antitrust laws is that it's fair competition that is best for Americans rather than extreme monopolization or consolidation or centralization of markets, right? I mean, we've had an economy that has been delivered enormous benefits to people when firms, even big firms, even incumbent firms, are having to look over their shoulder and see, am I about to get lapped? And does that mean I need to go even faster? I need to deliver even better prices. I need to deliver better quality. I need to deliver better jobs. And it's true that monopolies and some incumbents would rather keep that competition out, would rather shut those rivals out of the market. But the whole premise of our antitrust laws is that actually the best ideas should win, and gatekeepers should not just be able to lock in their dominance. And we've seen time and time again, extreme consolidation means that people are having to drive 500 miles or 100 miles to go to the hospital rather than 5 miles. It means people are paying more for healthcare, for groceries, and it can even lead to major disasters like extreme consolidation in aerospace manufacturing that leaves the U.S. vulnerable.
Back in October, the GOP-led House Oversight Committee released a report on your leadership of the FTC. And that report says, quote, its singular purpose is to impose left-wing ideology over American markets and companies, disregarding American consumers and mirroring the European models that the Khan FTC strives to imitate. What do you make of that statement?
Well, look, I think our record speaks for itself. I think all the ways that we are delivering enormous benefits for the American people speaks for itself. And I'm just enormously proud of the just win after win that we've been able to deliver for the American people, be it in court, be it in advancing the law, be it in money that we're saving for people, be it in non-competes that have been dropped for thousands of workers. And so it's just been an honor to get to be in this role, and very proud of what we've been able to deliver in the relatively short time that we've had.
But just sticking with the issue of partisanship, because a lot of Republicans don't like you. Some do, but a lot don't. You mentioned a moment ago that there's nothing intrinsically partisan or progressive about antitrust laws, anti-monopoly laws. It shouldn't be. It should be something that people across the political divide support. Obviously, antitrust is about making the free market work in a fairer way, as you explained. Do you see yourself as a capitalist, or as someone more on the left, someone as more of a social democrat?
Well, look, capitalism, we have open, fair, competitive markets. That's the system that we have. Those are the markets that our antitrust laws are supposed to protect. And so absolutely, I mean, I think competition is the lifeblood of our capitalist system. And those are the laws that we at the FTC enforce.
So it's not just Republicans who have come after you. Some liberals and centrists haven't been too happy with how you've run the FTC. And Kush Kadori wrote in New York Magazine at the end of 2023, quote, things have not gone as planned for the movement of the once rising star who has suffered a series of conspicuous setbacks at the helm of the FTC this year, 2023. He pointed out at the time to your lawsuits against Meta and Microsoft having, quote, flopped in the courts. You a moment ago mentioned the non-compete ruling that was welcomed by a lot of people, but now has been, I believe, suspended by a judge. What do you say to people who say, well, you haven't been as effective as you say?
Well, look, we at the FTC have had just historic wins. I mean, it's really remarkable to look at the last few years and just see enormous ways that we've been able to shift the law. We've litigated 5 murder trials in the last year alone, which is a record. We've already won 4 of those. We're waiting for a 5th decision. And these are not just small ball cases. I mean, these are cases that are going after some of the biggest mergers, the biggest deals in our economy. We're putting forward arguments that candidly enforcers in the past sometimes shied away from. And we have resoundingly won. I mean, we just issued these new merger guidelines a year ago. They've already been cited as persuasive authority by over a dozen courts. And I think if you hear some of the chatter on Wall Street and by deal makers, they've certainly noticed how effective the FTC has been.
You've gone after Amazon and Meta, and yet Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg are right now cozying up to Donald Trump. The day we're speaking, Mark Zuckerberg just put out a video saying he's going to change all of Meta's content policies to align with Republican ways of seeing it. They've donated to his inauguration fund as well. How do you think their behavior right now since the election will weigh on the FTC as we start a second Trump term? Do you think these tech giants will be scrutinized to the same degree going forward?
Well, look, I can't predict what a future administration is going to do. I do know that one of the original insights underlying the antitrust laws and the anti-monopoly tradition in America was a recognition that deep concentrations of economic power would be dangerous for the American people. It would undermine their economic freedoms, but it could also pose political dangers. And I think too often Americans realize that extreme concentration of economic power can buy you political power in ways that people view as unseemly and not really how our system is supposed to work. The FTC has been successful in its litigations against Facebook and Amazon. Those are set to go to trial in the coming years. And as I've noted, I think it's in those companies' interest to try to come and get some type of cheap settlement. But I think it's in the interest of the American people for those cases to go to trial and for us to get those liability verdicts.
So you're not going to be the chair of the FTC going forward. Donald Trump is president from January the 20th. He's picked your fellow commissioner, current commissioner, Andrew Ferguson, a conservative, to be the new chair of the Federal Trade Commission. Ferguson was appointed in April of last year. He's dissented against some of your most popular policies, the ones you've been mentioning in this interview, like banning non-competes, cracking down on junk fees. He said that he's going to fight wokeness and fight back against the trans agenda. Do you worry that a lot of your good work, the popular work you've cited in this conversation of ours, that's going to be undone by your Republican successor? Sounds like it will be.
Well, look, I can't speak to what his plans are, and folks will have to ask him directly. I do think that a lot of the wins that we've achieved for the American people will be durable. Many of the rules that we finalized have already gotten into place, including a rule that banishes fake reviews. Our click-to-cancel rule is set to go into effect January 14th, and companies will have until mid-May to come into full compliance. And the litigated wins that we've already gotten are not going away, and they make clear that if in the future enforcers want to retreat and want to really go soft on taking on corporate lawbreakers, that's not because of anything that's happening in the courts or the law. It's actually going to be in direct contravention to what the law mandates. So, these will be decisions that future enforcers will have to make.
But clearly he's going to take it in a different direction. That's undeniable.
Well, look, of course, every chair comes in with their own policies and their own priorities. I do think one thing that's especially striking about the antitrust and the anti-monopoly work is, as you've noted, there is deep bipartisan concern about extreme concentration of private power and what it means for a handful of companies to get to pick and choose, for example, who is getting seen and heard in the digital sphere. I think there's a lot of concern about, people's health care. And so these concerns are not going away.
Lina, on that note about partisanship, here's what I don't get. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance called you one of the few people in the Biden administration that I think is doing a pretty good job. Former GOP Congressman Matt Gaetz, who Trump originally wanted as his Attorney General, said, "I hope her work continues in the Trump administration." And you yourself welcomed their praise for your work. And yet, not only are they getting rid of you, the guy they're replacing you doesn't share any of your views, the views that seem to endear you to the likes of Matt Gaetz and J.D. Vance. Why do you think that is? Why aren't Trump and Vance keeping you on then, if they agree with you?
Well, look, it's very traditional for a new president, especially of a different party, to come in and select their own political appointees. And you've probably noticed that there's a big debate happening in the Republican Party about how to think about corporate power, whether we really want an approach that's coddling monopolies and encouraging extreme consolidation of corporate power, or instead whether we want strong cops on the beat that are taking corporate lawbreakers to court, holding them accountable, and protecting the American people from monopoly power. So that's a debate that's happening right now in real time.
The Vances and Gates seem to be losing it because Andrew Ferguson is taking over from you. But it's not just the Republicans who decided to kind of distance themselves from you. It feels like you were abandoned by your own side too. I mean, I saw you doing events with AOC during the presidential campaign in New York, but you were nowhere to be seen when it came to the Harris campaign. And the vice president had as her major media proxy on economic issues billionaire Mark Cuban, who went out and said he wouldn't keep you on as FTC chair if he was president. And he said, the bigger picture is she's hurting more than she's helping. Do you feel like the Harris campaign undermined you?
My job is a law enforcer. There are laws that prohibit people in my type of position to even be campaigning or be appearing in political campaigns. So
I
I've
mean,
been
you appeared
focused
with
on enforcing the
AOC.
law without fear or favor. Sure. So when we get invited to do constituent events to meet with the constituents of members of Congress, that's always something that we do. But um, our job is not to kind of, help campaigns. And at the end of the day, my job is to listen to the American people and to enforce the law without fear or favor. We've been doing that, including from listening to Americans across the country. Congress has charged the FTC with enforcing the law in a, without fear or favor, and that's what we've been doing.
Just for the record, did the Harris campaign, did the vice president reach out to you at all during the campaign to bolster your work or use any of your achievements that you've told me about today in their campaigning?
Well, look, in my capacity as FTC chair, of course, we've met with the vice president and have shared with her, parts of our work that she has helped lead on. But we, as enforcers, as law enforcers, we're not involved in campaigning because that would violate the law.
One last question. You can continue to serve the FTC as a commissioner until I believe the Senate confirms new appointees, which could take months, of course. I believe there aren't any laws requiring you to resign when the Trump administration takes over. Are you considering staying on at the FTC as a commissioner, if not the chair, after January the 20th?
Well, look, my focus right now is on the time that I have left as chair. We have 8 more business days, and we're going to use those days to keep protecting the public from illegal business practices. As you've noted, the president-elect has not only designated a new chair, but announced his intention to nominate my replacement. And so my time at the commission will be winding down. And right now, we're just focused on the next 8 days and getting as much out as we can.
But January 21st, is Lina Khan on the FTC or not on the FTC? It's only 13 days away.
Look, right now we're just thinking through, until the morning of the 20th, and my time at the FTC will be coming to an end.
That's a great political answer, which makes me now add a last question on and say, do you have ambitions of running for political office at some point, elected office?
It's been an honor to be at the FTC and enforce the law without fear or favor, and just thinking about the rest of my time here.
It's a very good politician answer. Lina Khan, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you taking my questions. Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to Zeteo.com. Your support matters.